Next up, we have the return of the great Martin Brechbiel, our Observations newsletter editor, and he'll be returning with his Scratch Builder's Corner this evening, building a Carsten's Reefer in O scale part 2, I believe.
Let's see what we got here. That looks familiar. There we go. So yes, I'm back. It's time to broaden our minds just a little bit. Okay, so we're going to finish up the Carsten's Reefer. And it's been 2-3 weeks since I dropped off the planet. With my return, we'll have to figure out where I was. And I've added a few extras just for fun. So that's where we're going. This curious little, I guess, around 36, 38 foot reefer. I didn't bother to get too precise on size. When I laid it out and started building it. And that's about where we stopped 2 weeks ago. So it must have been 2 weeks ago because I wouldn't lie to myself on my own slides. Probably. So there's where we were. So it's just a, taking for those who didn't catch the first half, it's just a huff and puff kit. And we just shoved the hole for the door down at the far end on both sides and scratched together a door out of some other bits and pieces of wood and added a bunch of details and underbody. So that's where we were. So picking it up and going onwards, the roof. These kits are kind of peculiar because you lay in this scribe siding on each side of a center board, and it comes up flush, and then you add roof walk boards, supports, and it looks like this, which is nowhere near anything close to prototypical for anything, but with the roof walk over it, you don't see it anyhow, so nobody cares. We're not going to worry about it. Coat of paint, roof walk over it, doesn't matter. Oh yeah, so there's the underbody. The basic K-brake system. I'm not sure where that brake cylinder came from. I think that's a San Juan 2-part one that I put together. Those look to be perhaps Berkshire Valley parts for the levers, which are no longer available, which is extremely sad because they're actually very, very nice parts. You can carve your own out of a little piece of styrene with round the ends with a drum sander on your Dremel. It takes a few seconds. It takes minutes though if you catch your finger with a drum sander and there's blood everywhere. But it's a lot easier than not doing it at all. So the standard truss rod underbody with surgical silk holding it together. It's sort of up on. It's actually partially up on the queen posts. They'll all go up there later. Okay, so a coat of paint, and we stain the underbody, paint the metal parts black, and so on and so forth. That's a Minwax stain. I have no idea what kind of Minwax it is. Whenever I run low on the bottle, I just grab a can and top off the bottle. So the color is always changing over time. So over the years, my cars that are, or buildings that are stained with this tend to vary a bit with time. The hardware for the door is the kit was missing that stuff, but I scavenged that out of a Heel Line or All Nation parts. I'm not sure which it was, probably the All Nation parts. And these are fairly easy to work with. They're white metal castings. Pre-paint them. A little bit of goo and CA on the back, drop them into place with a pair of tweezers, and touch it up later. The drip edge above the door, in the original picture, it wasn't straight. It was actually angled like that. So that's a bit of brass angle with a section cut out of it, bent at an angle and put back together to get that angled little detail. It's a rather distinctive little piece, and I thought it just had to be done to make this car look interesting. The rest of the parts are just, steps from I think those are U.S. hobbies, and the grab irons are actually Northeastern. Once upon a time, Northeastern sold O-scale grab irons. They're very nice. I can't find them anymore, but the little bag I have said there were a gross of them in the bag for $1. So that's probably been a few years or decades.
Hey,
Or
Martin. Hey,
yes, sir.
Martin. We've got Bill Hawk on our chat
Yeah.
asked whose turnbuckles are they?
Oh, those are Tishi.
Okay,
The red,
Bill.
the red brown ones. Those are Tishi. Part number 2004, I think. But if you look under O-scale on the Tishi website, they'll pop up turnbuckles. They're very nice. They'll hold up to I think they're cord for 25 thousandths wire.
Martin,
Yes, sir.
are those bolsters rosin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Those. Yeah, I used to cast those all the time, and I probably have another 50 or 60 pairs of them. I'm not so sure about my resin source anymore. It was an industrial company that had a side door for hobbyists, and I think the side door disappeared over the course of the pandemic, and they've never brought the side door back. And I'm not interested in buying 5-gallon jugs of resin.
Thanks, Martin.
Yep. So there's the roof. And as I said, once you put everything up on the roof, all the little parts and bits, you don't really notice what's underneath the roof walk. You just pre-paint everything, glue it in place. Don't worry about it. You can touch this all up later. And at the end of the day, I overspray the entire car anyhow with clear matte or matte clear, depending on how you want to phrase it, out in the driveway with a can of Rust-Oleum. And today was a lovely day for painting, which is what I did. It was up to 75 degrees here. So you never miss a chance if it's up to 75 degrees to find whatever it is you have built over the winter and run outside and paint. And there, the decal, it's one sheet. That's one whole big piece. And you see all those little bubbles, they all went away. And I went back with a scalpel and actually cut this apart into little strips matching the scribe siding. And once you overspray it and everything, it all settles out nicely.
Martin.
Well, I have to say, I really don't like working with decals that are like 2 by 4 inches.
Martin.
Yes, sir.
I've always been challenged with decals, and I've always seen people put down a gloss first. Did you just put this decal right over that flat?
Oh, no. This was glossed first.
You do. So that's the standard operating procedure. Put down gloss.
Yeah, over painted wood, I'm going to either use a gloss paint or I'll hit it with a coat of gloss.
The whole side of the model, or just
it's just easier as opposed to then your later finish stays uniform.
Okay, good tip.
In fact, while I do that, I'll even spray a lot of the card just because then everything stays uniform.
Okay.
So yeah, you can see it looks a lot better afterwards. Except I tore a little bit of the decal with a scalpel. I didn't have a brand new blade in it, so there's a lesson to you too. If you're going to be cutting things like decals, even that little thin decal will rip if your scalpel is just a little dull. And just to make it more interesting, I put a set of Fox trucks underneath this. These are kind of scarce in O-scale, unless you really want to pay a lot of money for them. Finding the cheaper ones, good luck. When I luck into them, I grab them off the table, throw money at the seller, and run away laughing because they're just not going to be found otherwise. They're probably from the late 40s, early 50s. So they're Thomas. So they're older than I am. But oddly enough, they still roll downhill. But I do that as well. So gravity is a harsh mistress.
Martin, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Why is the door at the end?
Probably because they specifically were servicing a facility that unloaded the meat and they wanted it at that end. They had a door. That's where they parked the car. And the meat was hung up on a overhead system, and they just came
It
down.
probably hung up and went around on a chain like thing.
Yeah, on a carousel.
Rack, yeah.
Yeah, the same thing that they put your shirt on at the dry cleaners.
Okay.
Makes you
Okay.
wonder about your dry cleaner, doesn't it? Okay.
Martin,
Yes, sir.
I believe Scale City has Fox trucks.
Yeah, they do. They're not to say something bad about Scale City, but they're very difficult to assemble and get them to be square.
Mm.
And they're white metal.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so these aren't white metal. These are actually stamped steel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these
All
are. Of course, over in the cabinet, I have some really, really, really nice and god awfully expensive imported ones that I got from Rich Yoder. So someday
Yeah.
when I really, really feel generous to myself, I'll put them under a car that I think is actually worthy of them.
There you go.
But wait, yes, there's more. The Ginsu knives. Yes, here they are. Now, I just did another mainline reefer just for fun. This one also was missing a bunch of parts, but the basic car was pretty much the same car as the one we just saw. So you can build this or you can build a different car. And I did this one solely for one reason, and it was to put these decals on it. Because I just thought, that's really, really incredibly garish. And it will stand out in the dark. You know, it probably glows in the dark. And I thought, but it's pretty cool. And K4 sells some really nice and interesting decals. It's reminiscent of the really, really interesting dry transfers that Clover House used to sell. Hopefully Clover House will get back into business someday. They are fun to use. You get really unusual cars, really neat cars. Okay, granted, they're pre-World War II cars. Maybe not appealing to everybody, but gosh, you know, shaking up the 40 cars in your train with something a little bit more bright and interesting can't hurt too much. So maybe you should try and build something a little bit off the beaten path. And maybe we'll do a caboose starting next week. I don't know. I haven't done a caboose in a long time. So we're done.